Hello, welcome Janette. Welcome anyone who is joining us. Thank you for being here. And I would just like to take a moment to introduce us. And we are going to talk about what we are saying yes to in our lives.
Yes.
All right, so Janette Stuart is the founder and emissary of joy at Angel Angles. I love that, which exists to spread more love, joy, and peace into the world. She's a core blogger and expert presenter. I also love the word presenter, giving presents for the wellness universe. She loves to perform angel readings as an angelic practitioner, and she created the Love Notes from the Divine inspirational card deck and is the author of the On a Path of Joy series of 7 devotional books. I have one of them here.
Yay.
And I'm Julia Ostara. You can call me Jules. I might appear to be a mundane, middle-aged homeschool mom with ridiculous grocery bills, yet I'm painting the story of a magical, optimistic mountain mama, thrivalist, explorer, and presenter also, casting rainbows all around me. I've created 2 inspiring oracle card decks. I host some fun online creative courses at thrivetrue.com, and I just finished writing The Girl Who Dances with Delight.
Oh, I'm so excited for you.
So that's who we are, and I'd love for anyone watching to join the conversation in the comments when we post this and open it up so it's not just about us. It's let's bring you in and be part of this. This is not for us, just for us. It is partly. We get to chat and enjoy that. And I wanted to address if there's any skeptics out there, especially welcome you. And if you hit play and you're not sure why you're listening, I wanted to kind of address that because I've been there. And I share in my book about, I don't know when or why these thoughts, these affirmative thoughts and these tools work and when and how they don't. And I know there's some skeptics who might think that's woo-woo stuff or, you know, that doesn't work. And you may be right sometimes. My mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer in 2008 and she died in 2010. And she was trying some of this kind of stuff. We had talked to a friend who had been surviving for 13 years with some of the Heal Your Life techniques from Louise Hay, and she suggested that to us, and we tried it, and it didn't work. So I'm going to just address that from the get-go, because I understand that some people might just say, well, you know, it doesn't work, and sometimes it might not. And I'm not going to say that those people, like my mom, didn't have enough faith or didn't believe in it or didn't feel it wholeheartedly, because I know that she did, and she wanted to be here to see her grandkids grow up. They were 5 and they were her oldest when she died. So she was, you know, she was blessed with a very full life. I have friends who had lost their moms when they were 2 and when we were in 7th grade, and I know I was lucky to have her as long as I did. Yet, in spite of the fact that that happened, I'm still doing this, and I want to just share why.
Right.
Because I'm aware of the power of imagination, our imagination and creativity, the power of intention and prayer, and from the scientific side, the biology of belief and placebo effect. So whether you come at it from the spiritual or from the more scientific and physical, there are multiple ways to approach this that all address this affirmative living, your affirmations, your use of intentions or prayer or blessings or whatever you want to call it. Wishful thinking. I have had that on my blog for a long time. Wishful thinking, absolutely. Like, yes, I'm saying yes to that. And it's because sometimes it does work. And what if it does? And it's because I feel better when I focus on how I want to feel and how I want to live. And so I'm doing it anyway, in spite of the skeptic and the doubt and even the experience of it not always working. But I still feel better when I don't dwell on certain things and I choose other things to say yes to and to affirm in my life. And so I wanted to have Janette kind of also offer her to do the same, to address that as well. And the one other thing I wanted to say is that this can be playful. It doesn't need to be heavy. And I think we both kind of take that approach to it. So it makes me feel better. And that's why I do it. And Janette, if you'd like to share with us anything about why you do all this, and maybe if you have any suggestions for how to handle the skeptical and the doubts and the fears or the longing that might come up in the process.
Okay, sure. And I agree with everything you said, Julia. I think as humans, we try to overthink things and make it more difficult than it needs to be. And I think when we come at it with a sense of childlike wonder and how can I get this to work for me? This is what I want. I think it's important to ask ourselves the question in the day, is this the way I want to feel? Or am I feeling the way that I want to in this situation? And then if not, to be able to course correct, to make it the way. I have a really good example. So my husband and I have been married for 35 years. And this morning we had a little debate. And he left the house and I was kind of in a snit still. And before we got on the air here, I called him and I apologized because it wasn't the reaction that I wanted to give to him. And so that was taking advantage of the situation and making it the way I wanted it to be, not necessarily how it was, but to make the effort. And so anyway, that was terrific. So we all have difficult times. You know, Julia lost her mom, which is so difficult. I lost my brother, and he went from being able to walk 5 miles in a month to not being able to walk. And at that time, I was getting a lot of love and support from the angels. And that was really a life-changing event for me. And part of my affirmative living, like, how can we make his last days better? How can I help my parents that are being primary caregivers? You know, like asking those kind of questions, how do I want to feel? And I think that's really important. And talking about when things are really good. We tend to say, oh my gosh, my commute was so terrible. This idiot cut me off in traffic, you know, all of these kind of things. And if it's more acceptable, I think, to talk about the negative, but it's so much more soothing for our soul to talk about what is working well in our lives. And that's not a real natural question for us to ask when we get together with our girlfriends. But I had an event yesterday that it was a fun day, and we talked about all of the blessings in our lives and all of the joy and the things that we wanted to have, the feelings that we wanted for this summer in particular. And that was just really great. And I just want to invite the listeners to consider what it is that you want. And you're not here to please anyone but yourself, and your joy is your birthright, and it's nothing you need to feel guilty about. It is a level of self-care. And by you living your most joyful life, you are a bright light and beacon for others. And so it's helping the world when you are in your joy.
Yes, to so much of that. And you covered, we didn't talk about a lot of what we were going to do ahead of time. I took some time this morning to ask for guidance, and Janette did a little bit of that as well. And we're just trusting the flow of this. And she brought up something when you were just talking about your girlfriends. It made me think about, it's not even on this one, but last night I had thought about gossip and how we affirmed things when we get into that. And so it's not just our affirmations for ourselves. It's also what we're affirming for others, what we are declaring for others, when we refer to them, like you just said about the idiot in traffic, you know, like what are we affirming when we see that?
Right. Yeah.
Instead of having compassionate, or, you know, being able to say like, oh, and I've learned this shift over time, right? When someone does something, especially that feels harmful, to be able to shift to offer compassion, that they might be able to get to a place, whatever they need to be able to have more joy, or to be able to be more considerate of others, that they might be blessed with that. So it's, you know, it's also what I'm affirming, not just for myself. And when you said that about self, I was thinking this morning about being self-centered and how that's taken me a long time to realize that that's not necessarily a bad thing. That was a pet peeve of mine for a long time, like when people seemed kind of that way. But I've learned that there's two different sides to that, that there's the like big self that includes the breath we share with everyone and everything. And centering in that, being rooted in that kindness, where we are, meaning we are kindred kindness, not just being nice kindness, but we are of the same kindness.
Absolutely.
And when we do that, I think that's why you were saying like it would radiate and it would also heal others, because it's almost like it's lifting us out of that dwell and that despair and that suffering and the complaining and all that negativity that we have gotten somehow sucked into in a culture that like dwells on that and drama and all of that, to make a difference, to say yes to something else, to choose what we're saying yes to, right?
And it takes a lot of bravery for you to stand in your truth and to think what it is that you want, and to talk about those things, and to make it like, if you want it to be a drama-free zone, okay, you can state what you want, you know, and the people will come and go, but you know, you can bend the conversation to the more positive if that's what you want. And I think, you know, in our culture, there's so many TV shows and everything focusing on did you see that, what she was wearing, or you know, and so what we focus on grows and expands. And so if we want more angst and drama and more idiots in traffic, then we ask for that by doing that. But also, you know, on the flip side of that is when I'm an idiot in traffic and I have to, you know, veer over into a lane, and I would like to be treated with grace and respect and compassion, so that, you know, it comes full circle, right? It's like you talked about the giving of it and then also the receiving of that. And as light bearers, I think that's one thing, you know, we don't have a problem with giving, but we have a more difficult time in the receiving of it. So,
but we need that balance, right? And we need the replenishment and reciprocity.
Yes, exactly.
And one of the things, like, I wanted to address that affirmations can take so many different forms, right? So it can be a prayer, or it can be a wild wish. Like, I wanted to have a dandelion to blow because but my husband mowed the lawn, so there's not any left.
There goes your dandelions for a while.
That could even be, you know, what you're affirming. There are so many ways you can approach affirmations. So I use that word because it fit the letter A in the basic dance step in my book.
Right. Absolutely.
And because it is so much a reminder for me of what I'm saying yes to. Because when you affirm is like what you're saying yes to. And so it reminds me of that. And we all have a soundtrack in our head, right? Maybe not everybody does, but like Dave Matthews, my head won't leave my head alone. If you know that song.
Yeah.
And there's another song about Quiet Your Mind by Zach Brown Band, and I have a hard time doing that. And I don't even always want to do that, I've learned, because quieting my mind, sometimes I do, and I appreciate that peacefulness, but sometimes I want to be participating and playing and being part of, and I don't necessarily want to be escaping or numbing out or, you know, any of those things. So there are healthy ways to quiet your mind, and there are some not so healthy ways. And I've been there. I've tried that, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And it feels much better for me to think about the lyrics that are playing in my head. Choose the song that's in my head, choose what I'm saying yes to. And so I think about what is the soundtrack of my life. And, you talked about even in those conversations when people are gossiping, we can ask a question maybe instead of any kind of judgment, just like, what are we saying yes to? Like, we can even just ask that, explore it, the wonder you mentioned, I think earlier on, right. And exploring both our head and our heart, like I can get so stuck in my head, and that's when I think I start to maybe lose track of what's my heart really wants. And so I need to bring them together to harmonize. And that's what, for me, the affirmations are a lot about, is bringing them together, using my head to affirm what I want to say yes to from what's in my heart, to let my, trust that, and to choose, to recognize that I have choices. That's also why I like the word affirm, and yeah. As reminding me that this is what I'm choosing to say yes to. Right. So I had on here to ask you how you choose your affirmations and what that soundtrack is. Because maybe that, when I first started, I borrowed other people's and I didn't always believe them, right. So they needed to become honest for me and make me feel good. And so Janette posts affirmations online that she gives people to have a a place to start if you're not knowing how to start your own. And her books are very affirmative as well in them. And I'll share from both of those in a minute. But I just was curious how you would address how you get in touch with that, how you choose the affirmations.
Yeah. And so I write the affirmations for the coming month, mm-hmm. and I tune into spirit and receive those messages, looking at the calendar and, which day's the weekend, and mm-hmm. just receive those. And the thing about the affirmations is that they only need to feel about 50% true to you at any particular time. And so the more you state them, the higher degree of truth they hold for you. And so it's like a portal to be able to stand in your truth, and by speaking them aloud, that even gives them more power. And we have about 50,000 thoughts a day, and a lot of them are not pretty. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are negative self-talk, like you would never talk to someone like that, but mm-hmm. It's playing in the mind. So it gives you a place to go, a direction, a intention to set for the day. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll have a different intention. Sometimes I will just post the intention from the angels, but then there may be a more personal affirmation for me.
Thank you. And what else did I have? Oh, and so this addresses that. This is a great lead into this, because for me, I choose a lot of my own affirmations now. I've gotten to a point where I'm comfortable doing that.
Yeah.
And it's been a learning process, and it's been a lot about listening to what is playing in my head and saying, wait a minute, is that what I want to change that tune?
Yeah, exactly.
Awareness.
Push a different button. Yeah. Oh, different playlist. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of the awareness, right? Of that's the first step, is being aware of what's going on in our head and then making the choice. I also go to, when I'm starting to get in like a rut or feel that it becomes rote, if that makes sense. Like I'm getting kind of too routine about it, and I'm maybe not feeling it as much. I've learned ways to invite support and help for that. So that's part of who we spend our time with, I think, and what the input is. So it's not just what's going on in our heads, right? It's also what's being fed, what we're feeding our heads. And so I love using the inspiration cards and books and things by people who I trust to cheer me on. And I may not have ever met these people. This is the first time I'm actually speaking to Janette, even though we've communicated, for a while now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have learned to be discerning, to be choosy, picky, right. about the books that I read and the shows that I watch and the songs that I listen to and all those things, and know where I can turn, even if it's not someone I know personally, because we don't always want to have that conversation with someone we know. Sometimes we're comfortable opening to do that, reaching out for that. And it's great if we do have those people to turn to. Yeah. But when we don't, or if we don't, or we're not ready to, I think that's a great way to be able to use books like Janette's, where this is has a daily, day 1, day 2, and you can go in it in order, or you can say, I invite some loving support or guidance right now, and then flip to a page and let's see what we get.
Let's see.
Shine your light brightly, dear one. I love that.
Perfect for today.
There's more to it, but doesn't that feel like it's cheering you on? It feels like it's cheering me on.
Yeah.
And
it's an invitation. Yeah.
And support. And it feels that way. And I love that at the beginning of this is just an aside, but this particular volume is about focusing on your personal power. And so I love that you had the audacity to dedicate it to yourself.
I know. I mentioned that year, even a couple of years before, that I would never have ever, thought about that. But especially that is based on the solar plexus chakra of personal power. And so who else would I dedicate that to but myself? And so I have had this one while I've been writing my book. I had this one and I went through each day and I let it be encouraging me to trust my voice and my personal power. And when we, are able to start doing that and cheer ourselves on with the help of others, but also just we're building that muscle kind of to trust ourselves and tune into that. I really that's so big, and being able to choose what we are saying yes to, and whether we're accepting a life that's not what we want, or we're giving it our best to choose. There are circumstances that are beyond us, obviously. That happens, but we still get to choose within the circumstance the best way we can, live within it and navigate it. And to me, that's a lot of what it's about, right? And that's a lot of what this one's about too, is making those daily choices, tuning in daily to what we want and prefer, at least. If we can't always have what we want, if at least we can guide it, with what we prefer, what we want, we can invite, like you said, what we want to say yes to, right? And I also wanted to draw a card, because that's another way that we can invite cheerleaders and supporters. And then I'll let you do the same if you have yours there. Sure.
So these are the decks that I made, and Janette has her own. And healthy flow, energy, divine touch. And so that feels like a blessing to me. And so I don't choose cards that are not going to feel that way to me. I've learned to use decks. I use lots of other people's decks in addition to my own. And I've learned to use the ones that feel like they are cheerleaders for me, that they are going to be supportive, that they are going to be encouraging what I want to say yes to. And when I can't speak for myself sometimes, when I'm too down to necessarily when I need a little helping hand, right? I can turn to those kinds of things. That's how I use those tools. So I wanted to address that in case people sometimes feel like they're stuck in their head. It's hard for them to change the tune, to shift what they're saying, what is playing on repeat in there.
Right.
And how do we shift that? So how are some of your tools that you do that?
Yeah, I start my day with my morning quiet time.
Mhm.
And since reading your book, when I'm waiting for my coffee, I am dancing around,
Yes.
dancing with the light. But I pick an angel card, usually is
Mhm.
one of the first ways that I start my day, and I'm reading sections of devotionals or
Mhm.
inspiring books. And then, of course, I'm writing because I love to write. I write every
Mhm.
day. Um, and with you, like you had said, yes, you find decks that resonate with you, angel
Mhm.
card decks or oracle cards. And so when you were drawing your card, I drew mine.
Mhm.
Um, so this is from the Love Notes from the Divine, and it's balance.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll read the little message with it. It says, Beloved one, may you easily attain balance in all
Mm.
areas of your life. Letting go of those things which no longer serve you frees up more space for more goodness to flow to you. It is a balance of mind, body, and soul. So
Yeah.
it talks about the flow as you were.
Yes, how interesting. And it's almost specifically addresses the question I asked, which was how to let go
Right,
of
right.
what wasn't, what was weighing
Let's
us down
Yeah,
and
let's get rid of that stuff that we don't
energy.
that's no good for us, right? Let's
Ah,
release those resentments and
mhm,
hurts of the past and
mhm.
free up space for what it is we do want.
Yeah. And it's not necessarily that you're denying it, right? It's that you're choosing, you're making a
Yeah,
choice. And like, that's how I feel about it. I dance through it sometimes because that helps me make it flow.
yeah,
And
yeah, and
it helps
definitely.
change my energy, the movement. So it can be going for a walk. It can be whatever, getting into let's help something flow through your body if it needs to
Yeah,
move.
yeah.
Sometimes
Sometimes,
movement
yeah,
is
and
enough.
sometimes I'll even just shake my hands like this, like when I'm walking,
Mhm,
like getting the energy out. I
mhm,
notice when dogs in our path, when my dog and I are on our morning walk, and
uh-huh,
his hackles will come up when they're barking at him, and
mhm.
then he just shakes it off, and it's like, okay, I keep going, and it's
I
such a
love it.
beautiful physical reminder of like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to shake it off too. I don't want to hold on to that stuff.
Yeah,
Let's let
yeah.
that go. Yeah.
And then sometimes I ask questions. That's another way for me. Like if sometimes I don't even know what it is that I'm feeling that's making me feel heavy or,
Yeah. Yeah.
that I'm holding on to, and I don't know. So I ask, what is this feeling? Why, what is this? Why is this? And going through that, whether I write or dance it out or talk it out loud, which I do outside. Thankfully, I have a place where I can do that. So
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
too many people looking at me like the crazy woman.
Yeah, yeah,
It helps me to, like you said, verbalize it, and I'm honest with it. So sometimes I might say, why am I feeling this, down? Why am I feeling this weight? But I also am inviting a change because I'm
right.
saying, how can I be free of
Yes,
that? So I'm asking that question too.
right, right,
And
right. And it's so important to feel those feelings, and to let them run their course,
mhm,
right? So that in the future you can, oh, this is what that is. That's a
mhm,
trigger.
mhm.
So here's
And then
what I
you
want.
learn, you come, that a lot of times that fuels my affirmations
Yeah,
because I take that and then I am able to shift it and say, well, what would I rather say? What do I want? What can I celebrate, or what would I rather be celebrating? To me, that's a big part of what am I saying yes to is
yeah,
what would I like to accept? What would I like to be grateful for? What would I like to celebrate? What do I love? And leaning into what I love instead of what I'm afraid of
yes,
is big. And sometimes my fears kind of feel rooted in love because I'm a mom and I might, be nervous about something for my kids. I might have fears associated with that are because I love them.
yes,
But
yes,
if I can address them in a way that is, instead of going down that what if path that is fearful, it's going down the what if, what I love. What would I love?
yeah,
What do I want to invite? What do I want to say yes to? What do I want to affirm?
right.
And that can drive those affirmations, right? And so I start singing that. And you usually start yours with I am, and I do that as well. And sometimes I do we are, because sometimes it's an I am and sometimes it's a we are all sacred. And like I can hold us all in that space when that person cuts me off in the road or whatever. And, you know, maybe like you said, that's been us before and we were lost and we didn't know we needed to turn there. And all of a sudden we're the good.
Right.
So when I do both, I do the I am, and usually it is more personal, and I still think that I am includes, because I've found myself saying I am the water that flows through me and the breath that flows through me, and I'm blessed with each breath, and that then is also being inclusive.
Yes.
You know, it's acknowledging that I'm not alone, so I don't feel lonely. And it's acknowledging that we're not so separate, maybe either, right? Because we're sharing things. So for me, that feels good. For other people, it might be something different. Do you have anything you want to add to the cheerleaders and the like how you, when you get stuck in that rut? I think the shaking it off was great.
Yeah, you like that. Also, to be able to shift to what it is I'm grateful for. And so love and gratitude and appreciation are the highest vibrations we can feel. So if you can get to a point where you're able to see what you're grateful for in a situation, that helps raise your vibration. It helps you feel better. It helps others around you feel better. So in the evening, that's usually my gratitude time.
Yes, me too.
What it is I'm thankful for. And I keep a gratitude jar on my dining room table. So like really big things, I'll put a note in there with the date of what it is I'm grateful for. And at the end of the year, I have a celebration with myself. I light a candle and read all of those gratitudes, and it's just like such a wonderful way to end the year and to also anticipate the goodness and grace that's coming.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I want to get close to wrapping up. I know you mentioned before I read the affirmation for today that she shares on the Wellness Universe, and she shares them on her pages too. I'm going to share links, all the links where you can find. She's so generous with her daily sharing. I share a blessing card for, you know, a pick from mine once a month in the heart-to-heart emails, but Janette shares something every day. So she's consistent, and you can be there for support. I'm a little more when it comes.
Yeah. And that's great. That's great. Beautiful.
So you had something you wanted to share from this morning. If you want to share that with everyone before we read the affirmation and close up, tell them how they can enter to get a free copy of one of these books. We're going to give away one of each.
Yay, wonderful. And so we had talked about our non-negotiables for the day, the things that I do on a consistent basis to fill my cup up so that I can be the best Janette that I want to be. And part of that is my writing. And so today I asked the angels what message. I had drawn the card Compassion from the Mary Queen of Angels deck. And I asked the angels what message they had for me, and this was their answer. So let's take a few moments, and I'll read what they said. Dear beautiful soul, we are with you always and forever. We see you through the loving eyes of love and compassion only. There is no judgment. There is no malice. There is only love. As you reach inward at a higher altitude, we invite you to gaze upon your world and those in it with only loving eyes. Not only will it benefit you by eliminating your angst, it will benefit those you come in contact with and all of humanity. As your being vibrates with energy of pure unconditional love, seeing others through the eyes of love, this includes viewing yourself through the lens of love and compassion only. Dear heart, give yourself a break. Take the heavy burden of guilt, shame, and blame and replace it with love,
Take it off.
joy, and peace by relinquishing your desire to control and judge others and yourself. By walking your path with an open mind, open heart, and open hand, not holding an attachment for the outcome, you liberate yourself to the freedom and the peace that passes understanding we all so desperately crave. You can do this. It is entirely up to you, beautiful one, and it is not too much, for in spiritual truth, it is your legacy, it is in your DNA, and it is that which many are striving for, yet they know not what they are seeking. When in doubt, use the lens of love. Love is the answer to every question. It is the solution to every problem. You have the strength and wisdom of the divine pulsing through your veins, and we are here to assist you in that journey, awaiting your request. Blessed be, and we are so grateful for you, dear heart. You are an amazing soul, and we delight in the gift of you. Love, the angels of loving compassion. And so this is for all of us.
Thank you. I had to shake it off when you read the part about letting go of the shame, because that is, I think, such a huge part of what holds us back from saying yes to whatever our our deep heart desire is that we might feel guilty or not worthy or shameful of it. And so no matter how you come at it, like whether you take the spiritual approach or you're coming from a more like Mother Nature, it doesn't matter, scientific, you want to get into that, a lot of times they kind of meet somewhere.
Yes.
And so, Janette and I have different approaches and different paths that have brought us here, but we are both feeling that same kind of inner, almost liberation of sorts to learn to trust in ourselves and in life. And that's been a big path for me. And I think that message was a lot about that. I don't know if the word trust was in it, but I think it had a lot to do with trusting that you're worthy of whatever you want to say yes to in
Absolutely.
your life.
You certainly are. And trust is my word of the year. So trust is really huge for me.
Yeah, it was one of mine last year or the year before was trust, grace. And I'm learning because I didn't have a lot of trust for a long time. So that's been a big one, big challenge for me to learn to do that. Yeah. And these are some of the tools that have been helping me to do that. And there are times when I don't, I was really hard to trust anything when my mom was going through all of that. And then I went through a period afterwards of being mad and a period of being disappointed. And it was really hard to find my way, make my way through that grief and understanding. And right now, my cousin's son is not even done with high school, and he's just had brain surgery and is fighting for his life, and that those things weigh on you when you don't, sometimes you feel like you can't trust life and you don't understand and you don't know why.
Right.
And I get that.
Yeah.
Yet, if we can find something, just that something, it doesn't matter what it is, if it's the hug. Like I remember my mom pulling my boys up into her hospice bed for a hug, and so that was it in the moment. And that shedding of the past and the future, the regrets or the fears, to be just in that moment, that's a huge part for me of why you do it in the present moment, right? You usually say your affirmations in the present moment.
Yes. Yeah.
And it might be about the past or the future, but you can bring it in with love to this moment, is how I think about it. Like we can be grateful for all of our blessings, which has a lot to do with maybe the past. And we can be grateful for all of our opportunities, which has a lot to do with the future and our dreams in this moment, how they are here now, and the potential and what that potential is. And so like, I'm glad that just reminded me of my cousin's son, because that's been on my heart, a lot lately.
Yes.
And I think about whether you use affirmations or prayers or whatever you want to call it, or whether it's, just positive thinking, it doesn't matter what you call it.
Right.
It is important to me that I've learned that I've not let myself go to a place of feeling pitiful,
Right.
of dwelling in the pity or the fear, because I don't want to hold that energy, like you were talking about, the kind of energy that we hold for them or for him right now. And so I don't know what's coming, and tough stuff happens.
Yes.
But I do know that I can choose to try to hold them in a place of strength and love and being, together for the time that they have and being present while they can be. And so I don't know what the future holds. All I can do is choose how, what I would wish for them as best as I can right now, instead of that helps me to not be, it's so easy for us to say, oh, poor whoever, fill in the blank. Right. What are we affirming if we say, oh, poor whoever, and fill in the blank?
Yeah.
That's not affirming that's not inviting. I think of it a lot as an invitation.
Absolutely.
And so invite what we want into our lives. Learning to do that is big.
Yes.
Big. And finding ways that works for you. So explore and experiment with whether it's writing or it's talking to the angels or inviting, listening for, whatever other you might resonate with. I call it Mother Mystery because that feels, I appreciate the mother energy, and it's a mystery to me. So, but it gives me something to kind of, address, I guess, in a way, way of addressing it. But it could be writing, it could be letting others help open your, give you some ideas. It could be art, like this one. I paint a lot of, this says, I belong. Mm-hmm. And that was an affirmation, right? Right. And in the moment, I wasn't feeling like it. And I was feeling like I was really longing for a community of sacred and kindred spirits, a place, a circle of kindness is really what I was thinking about. But as I painted it and I wrote the words that I belong, just came almost like a message, like a gift to me.
Right.
Then I put period. Instead of adding anything at the end, instead of saying I belong to life or I belong here or I belong anything, it was just, no, I belong.
Yes.
That's it. You're here. So you are present, hence
absolutely
you belong here, right? And so that was sometimes we don't feel like we do. And being able to just accept that was a gift for me in that moment. So invite, the blessings, dance with the mystery or the angels or whatever it is. I've imagined that too. I've imagined myself in my kitchen. I see the clocks at 11:11 sometimes and I think, oh yes, I'll dance with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't hear them, but I feel that I'm held and I invite that. I accept that at that moment, and that's okay. That's enough for me in that moment.
Beautiful.
So,
beautiful.
I hope that something we've shared might be of use to somebody out there, whoever chooses to listen and stick around through this with us, because we went a little over time than what I was searching for, but we're using that word trust and trusting the flow, and that whatever we shared was probably meant for somebody out there. So if any one little thing happened to speak to you, take that as your gift and leave the rest. Take whatever felt like I could try that, or yeah, that works for me, or whatever. So just think about what you want to say yes to and what you want to invite, and explore, experiment, see what kind of blessings that might bring, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So thank you so much, Janette, for taking this time and sharing that with us. And
it's been such a blessing. Thank you.
We are going to give away a copy of each of these. We'd love to hear any comments, right? And
absolutely.
And keep the conversation going. Let's encourage and support one another.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk again about trust. That kind of came to me when you were talking about trust. It's like, well, maybe that's going to be a future podcast. So.
Yeah, because there's a lot there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot. And worthiness is part of it. And trusting, life is a big, big thing. And I use a trick sometimes that, if my head is being skeptical and saying, oh yeah, right, then my heart will say, wow, like, yeah, look at this, or look at that. What can I use to recognize that there is beauty,
Yes.
in spite of, like I shared in my book about the when the neighbor's home was broken into, and the Addams Family song, it's creepy and it's kooky, it's really
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
spooky. I felt that way about life at the moment. And
Right.
then I added a little medley and changed the tune to Yet There Is Beauty in the World. I don't know if you know that song. That's one of my Soundtrack of My Life songs by Macy Gray. There's
Oh,
beauty in the world.
yes.
And if we can remember that in spite of the other, there's this. And that's part of the changing the tune. And we can be playful about it, right?
The more playful, the better. Thank you so much, Julia.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hit stop. So bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.